with hosts Frank Blair and Hugh Downs. And now, here's Frank Blair.
Thank you, and welcome again to Over Easy. It's been more than 50 years since a young woman named Janet Gaynor won the very first Best Actress Academy Award, and less than 1 year since she made her debut on the Broadway stage. Today, Janet Gaynor is here with us, and we'll be talking with her in just a moment. We'll also get an update on the latest discoveries about arthritis with noted authority Dr. Ephraim Engelman and arthritis nursing specialist Glenda Dickinson, who's learned to live and work with her own arthritis. In the late 1920s, actress Janet Gaynor moved America with her performances in the silent classics Seventh Heaven, Street Angel, and Sunrise. And then after nearly a decade as the nation's favorite girl next door, she was again nominated for an Oscar for her performance in A Star is Born, in which she plays a promising actress whose husband is an alcoholic.
He's still asleep. He's been asleep nearly all day.
It's the best thing for him.
It's awful to see this happen to someone you love. And know in your heart that it can't get any better. I only know that all I can do now is stay with him and try to help him.
So will I. And between us, we'll take care of him.
You're very fond of him, aren't you, Oliver?
Well, I'm very fond of both.
Then I know you'll understand what I have to tell you. And after what happened last night, I think you already know what it is. I can't do any more pictures. I'm going away for good with Norman.
But you can't do that, Vicky. You're at the very peak of your success. And you've worked so hard to achieve it.
That's what's been wrong. Oh, I've thought it all out. Maybe if I hadn't been away from him so much, last night and what went before, it wouldn't have happened. Oh, I know it's too late to think about that now, but it may not be too late to go away with him and start over somewhere.
It's your life you're giving up, Vicky.
So I can try to give Norman back his. Can you honestly tell me I'm wrong to do it?
No, Vicky. I cannot honestly tell you that.
Then there'll be no more Vicky Lester.
Just 1 year ago, Janet made her Broadway debut in the stage version of Harold and Maude. And right now, it's my great pleasure to welcome her to Over Easy, Miss Janet Gaynor. Privilege to welcome you personally to Over Easy.
Well, thank you very much.
Well, you just finished up a Broadway show, Maude and Harold.
Right.
Janet, what was it like to go back on the stage after a few years of having not been before a camera or before an audience?
Well, you know, I was never on the stage, so it was a very new experience to me.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the camera is, I think, an old friend. At least it's been quite kind. And it was a thrill to be in front of an audience. And here I am in front of an audience again.
Wonderful audience here.
But, you know, in films, you don't have that reaction. You don't have the applause. You don't really know how it's all coming off until it's released.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, you retired after one of your pictures, The Young at Heart, and that was, 2 years after A Star is Born?
Right.
Oh, I remember that one so well. Why did you retire at that point?
Well, that's been asked me many times, and I really wanted to expand my life. You know, picture as this business, of course, all work, I suppose, is very confining, but I think picture making or acting is more confining than most. And or maybe it's a matter of energy, I don't know. I didn't have the energy to have any other kind of a life. And I just thought there was a great deal out there that I wanted to know about. And so I knew I had to make a decision, and I did.
And you did have another kind of life, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, but I think this needs to be said right here about your career. Janet Gaynor was the first actress to receive an Academy Award. I think that's just marvelous. And Then you were married for 20 years to the late designer Adrian,
Yes.
and he died in 1959. And then you married producer Paul Gregory.
Yes.
Now, do you think most people who had one good marriage want to marry again?
Yes. I think because if they've had a really good marriage, they know how fulfilling it is to have your companion, to have your love. And you see, I think that having a second marriage, or having a second love, shall we say, is rather like a mother being able to love all her children. I don't think the capacity to love necessarily is diminished for one because you love another.
True, certainly true. Well, it's also, I've heard it said that it is a compliment to the first spouse to remarry within a respectable time, of course.
I think that's true. It means that you really have been very happy,
True.
and you don't have guilt, or you don't have regrets. There's nothing you have to pay for. You had a really marvelous 20 years, which I had, and now I've been married to Paul. That will be 16 years.
Isn't that marvelous?
And this has been just as wonderful, naturally, in another way.
Sure.
You know, you don't repeat, but, well, I feel very fortunate, shall we say.
Well, Janet, what is the important ingredient to making a later life marriage work?
Oh, dear, that's a big
Well,
question.
it starts with love, I guess. You
Well,
start
that, of
with
course.
that,
It
yeah.
does start with love. And I think it's an understanding and a giving, and none of us are perfect, and we must not expect our partner to be perfect, but it's to love, and to love each other as you are, and to get along, and to blend. And the important things to one partner should be allowed to be important, and should be important to the other. And it's a give and take, shall we say.
Right. That's the way it should be, I'm told. And it works.
It does.
You have a second career going for you now. You're an artist.
Yes.
And I heard some good things about that, too. You had some one-woman shows, and they've all sold out.
Yes.
Hey, congratulations on that. What motivated you to get serious about art and start painting?
Well, I always wanted to paint, but it isn't as though I was a child prodigy or anything, because I wasn't. I didn't draw or paint or anything as a child, but when I was making pictures, I used to go to the art department in between takes. You know, we had quite a bit of time.
At the studio?
At the studio, and I was fascinated with, you know, the walls. It was like a studio, an art studio, and the walls would have all the drawings of the sets and things like that. So one Christmas, a box arrived full of oil paints from the man who was the head of the art department.
Oh, that's
and that was the beginning, and you know, that was a long time ago. And so I started to try my wings at painting. It was Christmas time, so I painted a poinsettia, and you know, you couldn't go far wrong with those red petals and green leaves.
Oh, I could.
And so I continued to paint, of course not very much because I didn't have the time. But then, you know, Adrian and I went to Brazil, and we lived there for 8 years. And we were on a farm way out. We had no electricity, and we had no social life, and we really had no friends except, as you probably know, since Mary Martin's been on this program, that she and her husband came down, and then they bought a place near us. And when they weren't there, we really didn't see very many people, so I had all that time to paint. And I had a beautiful flower garden, and I had a vegetable garden. And you know, city people just don't know how vegetables grow. Now,
Right.
do you know what a cauliflower looks like with all its leaves?
No.
Well, there you
Well,
see.
well.
It grows, they're great tall leaves like this, and they turn, and they're almost blue, and then way down in the center is that little cauliflower. I guess it's why it's called a flower, because it looks like a flower.
Did you ever paint one?
I did indeed. And so that's when it all really flourished.
Oh, you doggone. Did you get started with some instruction, some lessons or something?
No.
You just started?
I just started to paint what I saw.
Hmm.
It really, you know, since then I know that they say it's a great deal is in the eye,
Yeah.
and of course part of it is the skill in the hand that you must develop, and then the rest is in your heart.
What about the future now? What do you look forward to most in the years ahead?
To being with my Paul and to painting.
I can't tell you how refreshing it is to see you and to talk with you. And I'm thinking back over Seventh Heaven, and what are some of the other titles?
Well, the first three
Not
are
all of them now.
Seventh Heaven, Sunrise, and Street Angel. They were the
Marvelous.
three.
Thank you, dear. Janet Gaynor.